Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be doing a review for the Lorenzo Insigne card. This, I think, is a significant card to update to or upgrade to because he is a player that is a striker card. So it's a little bit different because I think normally he's a winger. So if we search up Lorenzo Insigne's card, his cards in general are left winger cards, which isn't necessarily too bad. If we search up his special version here, we'll see if the other Champions League card is a striker as well. So it isn't, right? So it's a left wing card. So the new Champions League version of Lorenzo's card is a striker card, which is very good because that actually gives you a lot of options to work with for your teams. Now, in terms of a meta concept, he wouldn't necessarily be ideal to use in a team just because of his height and weak foot. But in regards to everything else, he would be a pretty solid player to try out and have fun with, right? Because if you increase his finishing shot power, right, and then you can up his composure a little bit more, dribbling on the ball will be fantastic with him. Movement in general will be really good with him because he has acceleration, sprint speed, so on and so forth, right? So he looks like a fantastic card. So we're going to look more in depth with it in terms of work rates and so on and so forth. So if you do end up using this card, the best positions that you would have to use him in would be you could start him off as a left cam in a 4-2-3-1 narrow. If you want to start that formation just like that, you can actually do that now because you can switch to striker to center forward to cam, and put him on the left side. And then with Insigne's card, he is a right-footed player, so obviously finesse shots are very effective this year. So cutting inside and then finesse shotting it with his right foot is the most ideal situation. And with his card, his shot power isn't great, but he does have good long shots. Don't know if there's any correlation between long shots and the finesse shots, because it is a long distance shot, but I think it's more about just regular power shots with the long shots. So I think it's more about shot power and finishing potentially, right? The card definitely looks fun, right? High medium work rates is really good to have for an attacker. It's usually the best one. High is a very odd one depending on the characteristics of a player. So I think high medium would suit Insigne well because he's all about general movement on the ball, right? Moving left, right really quickly, that kind of play style. So in that regard, he'll be awesome to use. 3-star weak foot would definitely be a problem from time to time, but because driven shots are not that effective, it's not that big of a deal. But sometimes you will find yourself in a position to go from the right side and cut inside to the left and then finesse shot with his left, which he can't do. So that could be a problem sometimes. 5'4" height is obviously a huge issue. You can't really cross the ball with him. If you look at his attributes, he has no jumping, so he's just never going to win the ball for you. It's all about ground play, on the ball movement with Lorenzo Insigne. He does have good passing stats, so if you want to use him as a cam starting off, you can do that too. High medium work rate is pretty decent. Moving left and right, transitioning with him will be really good. Shooting stats in general are fantastic. He has 84 composure, which is decent. Nowadays, you definitely need like higher to be consistent or somewhat consistent, but 84 is a very good amount. Agility and balance, 96, 95 balance. General movement on the ball will be very, very quick because his center of gravity is very low. So he's 5'4" with good agility and balance. So you will never feel a sluggish feel with him unless it's your gameplay, obviously. Finishing 79 shot power. Stamina 81. Stamina 81 is acceptable. That's okay to use for this year's game. I think the bare minimum requirement should be an 84, but 81 is still pretty decent. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The card looks fun. The things you will notice obviously with him will be his height, his weak foot, and his inconsistent finishing. But other than that, his other attributes regarding the card is pretty fun. It looks like a fun card to try out. I could see people doing work with him even in division rivals, to be honest, because he still looks like he's still pretty decent. So in that regard, it is worth trying him out. In terms of teams you can use him in, he is Italian from the Calcio A, so very, very similar situation with most Italian players from the Calcio A is that most of the teams you're going to want to make is going to be around Serie A. So if we search up Insigne's card for Serie A, we will see here that the best solution with him is that you can use him in any team, right? So if you wanted to start off with a 4-1-2-2, in the Serie A, it's pretty decent because the strikers that they have, they don't really have too many options, right? They have a few good ones, right? Obviously Ronaldo, but I never really consider Ronaldo because he's very, very expensive. You can use Dybala. Dybala would be a pretty decent option. Dybala can be used as a cam as well. But there's players like Mertens, right? So I'm using the inform, but you can use the regular versions as well. So you can use someone like Mertens, maybe someone like Immobile. The reason why you may want Immobile in the team is because of physical presence on the ball, good finishing composure, as well as having the good weak foot with a high medium work rate and 6'1" height, right? So you have someone who is rapid on the ball on Mertens, and then you have someone who is a pure finisher in Immobile, right? The central cam position, right? That's the position you can probably use Insigne in, right? And again, the cool thing with Insigne is that he is from Napoli, right? So that being said, he does get 2 links with Alon, who is one of the better CDMs in FIFA. So if we look at his striker card right here, if we put him in this position right here, you get that double links already, right? So right here, you could put Alon, so you can have a solid CDM just to start the game off with. Put him right here, medium high work rates, boom, right? This guy already gets all the full chemistry, and then you could just kind of like work around the team at this point, right? Because Mertens, Immobile, Insigne, Alon don't need the chemistry. So if you can get someone that's possibly Brazilian or Italian from a different league, you could do that, switch around with the Brazilian center backs and like Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, stuff like that, just rotate the team around to different things. But the most ideal situation to do with Insigne, right? Because he has no physical presence, is to put physical presence players around him, right? The lack of physical because of his height and just zero strength is going to be a huge issue, right? But because he does the cut dribbles, it'll be nice to open up the space for yourself, right? So if we look at the center mids for this team, we can see that we can put players like Marek Hamsik, right? Because someone like Marek Hamsik has the physical presence, not necessarily physical stats, but he's a big player in game and he's also tall, right? 6 foot tall with 5-star weak foot is fantastic. Other players you could put in a team is Milinkovic-Savic, who is also a player that has physical presence on the ball. And if you're using a 4-1-2-2, his high medium work rates on the sides wouldn't necessarily be a problem because that's his attribute, right? He's an attacking type player, 4-star, 4-star. Dribbling on the ball won't be great, but physical presence will be awesome. So that's like what you're going for with these types of teams. So that's Hamsik. You can use someone who is somewhat defensive and somewhat attacking in someone like Matuidi, right? I think the most ideal situation would be to switch both of these cards because, they do get into positions where you can finesse shot with them. And if you're on the right side with Matuidi, he's more prone to cutting inside and shooting it with his left foot. Same thing on Milinkovic-Savic being on the left side, cutting in with his right foot. Or if they ever rotate in game, which they do sometimes, then you can use Milinkovic-Savic on the right side and shoot with his left foot because he does have a 4-star weak foot with decent shooting stats for someone that's going to be playing as a center mid for you, right? Center backs, I feel like is always an issue with the Calcio way because there's always something wrong with them. Like Eric Bailly, like there's something wrong with him, but he still has some stats that make him a good enough player. But other players in Serie A, I wouldn't say that much personally. So if I look at Calcio A players in center backs, there's players like Chiellini with low pace, Koulibaly with weird work rates. Let me search for the center backs here. Center backs there. Chiellini, Koulibaly, Mehdi Benatia would probably be one of the more ideal ones. Like my center back duo would be Mehdi Benatia, Skriniar, and Manolas. So Manolas I don't like because of work rates, but he's still one of the better center backs in the game for the Serie A. Right back, you can put someone like João Cancelo. Put João Cancelo right there as your right back to get that chemistry link right there. And then your left back, I would highly suggest doing your best to not use Dalbert because Dalbert's positioning is very, very poor. I would really, really suggest using Alexandro as much as possible because I feel like this year, more than any other year, the high work rates is very, very, very important. And I think that because Alexandro has the high work rates, it works out really nicely for the card. And then the goalkeeper, I think a general goalie you can use is someone like Handanovic, right? So we could put Handanovic in a team. Now, if you make a team like this, the only problem with this team is you can't really rotate the team that much, right? So if you're looking at the center mid position, right? If you're looking to rotate it to a 4-2-3-1, it won't be ideal, right? Because if you use 4-2-3-1, you would use Alon and Matuidi as your CDMs, but then you wouldn't necessarily have a good cam because you know, when you're using 3 center mids, one of them needs to be a good cam because the 3 attackers in the cam striker position are going to be playing as a striker or as the attacking roles, left cam, right cam, striker. So you need a good central cam. So we're going to look at any solutions in terms of having a player that's good all around. So we're going to search Serie A and we're going to search midfielders. Right, we're going to search midfielders, so concept players. And the ideal situation is to find someone that can play midfield, but that can also play attacker. So right now, the only solutions you would have is someone like Kevin Prince Boateng, a Perisic on 7 chemistry. Let's see if we got anything else. We even got Nanglin that we could put in the team too. And that's good too because of high work rates. Nanglin and Matuidi in the same team would be awesome. So having a high work rated player on one side and then having a high work rated player on the other side, as well as having Alon being your CDM with medium high, would be really nice. And it would be a lot of fun to use. There's Mario, there's Fabian, Parolo, which is the new card. Yeah, so they don't really have that many options, right? Like if you do use one of these players, right, you would have to be playing them on 7 chemistry if you're going to be switching it to the 4-2-3-1. You can start the team like this and use a 4-1-2-2. You can start this and use it like a 4-1-2-2. But again, you'll be missing that defensive presence from Keita Balde because he has no defensive stats, nor does he have any physical stats as well, right? So, but if you are going to be very narrow-minded in regards to your attacking play, you can put Nanglin on one side, Matuidi on the other, Alon in the middle, and then Insigne on the top. So you can have a good balance in terms of general movement with your players moving up and down the pitch, right? Because you want to have players that have the work rates to push up, but also have the work rates to push back, right? Because if you guys have ever used a player like Fabinho with medium work rates, his general urgency, right? That's the word I'm looking for. Urgency to push back isn't that great. There's also one player that my chat just suggested, which was Lorenzo Pellegrini, which is this card right here. So let's see his general stats here. This is probably an informed version of the card. So he has decent defensive stats, decent physical stats, 80 stamina. He looks like a decent all-round card. 3-star, medium work rates. He looks very generic, but like a good generic. You know what I mean? Like a card you can try out and see if he plays well in game. Because if you give him a chemistry style, he could be significantly better. But I wouldn't necessarily use him over a lot of these players here. Kevin Prince Boateng's pretty decent too, because he's medium work rate. So if you want more of an attacking presence between your center mids, you could change that, right? Because Kevin Prince Boateng is 4-star. So if you put him on the right side, he can cut inside, shoot with his left. And then if he ever rotates with Nanglin, he can do the same exact thing, right? I think that's pretty much it in regards to what you can do with Lorenzo Insigne's card. Because he is Italian, right? The only thing you can really do is put Caligari in the team, right? Because I think Caligari is the only other Italian player that is decent from other leagues. And even still, you would have to link it up with ABCD. Okay. Even still, you would have to link it up with, you know, the Bundesliga and stuff, right? Because obviously the legends are really good, like Maldini, but we're looking at the lower rate cards. There's Buffon from PSG. There's Verratti, but Verratti's Scream card actually looks usable. He's very slow and small, but he looks usable. Medium high work rates, right? He looks like he's usable. But yeah, Caligari is usually the only other card I can really think of at the top of my head for him to be somewhat usable. Because Caligari is medium work rates, 4-star weak foot, great fullback in general, right? Because he is 6 foot tall as well. So he's the only other player that I can think of putting into the team for that Italian chemistry link from a different league, right? You can also put someone like Parolo in the team. But if you use Parolo in the team, you know, lack of pace, right? My biggest problem with Parolo is that he's a high work rated player with very bad pace for that work rate. Because if he pushes up, his urgency to push back isn't going to be that great. But he does have stamina, so he'll never really run out of stamina during the game. but not necessarily, still not really necessarily a good player to use. But that's what you can do with Insigne's card if you do choose to use him. Again, the things you will notice with the card that's going to be bad is going to be his height, his physical presence, his weak foot, and his somewhat inconsistent finishing, because it is 79. Even if you give him a chemistry style upgrade, he will always play similar to his base card stats, and he will play to a chemistry style upgrade. So that is going to conclude the video for today, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. It looks like a fun card to get, but not necessarily ideal, because I think these cards are untradeable when you do them for the SBC. So in regards to whether or not it is worth it, I would honestly say no. But in regards to the things that I say, that you can do with him, and depends if you're a Napoli fan or a Italian person who wants to use an Italian team, he's not necessarily a bad card to use. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you guys enjoyed it, please drop a thumbs up on it. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Love you guys.